Imagine a world where everyone is a billionaire, but no one can afford a single egg. Throughout history, empires have tried to print their way to prosperity, only to watch their societies collapse. Today, we unmask the silent thief of history, inflation. We will discover why money is not wealth and why production is the only firewall between civilization and chaos. The Roman collapse, from golden conquests to copper ruins. Rome was a machine fueled by conquest. Each new victory brought gold, silver, and slaves. But by the 2nd century, the machine hit a wall. To the north were deep forests, to the east, the Persian Empire, to the south, the Sahara. Emperor Hadrian stopped the expansion because it cost more to defend new land than what it gained. Suddenly, the easy gold from war stopped, but the massive bills for the army and welfare remained. When Emperor Nero started mixing copper into the silver denarius, he thought he found a magic trick. By reducing the silver content, he could strike more coins from the same amount of precious metal. In his eyes, the treasury was getting fuller. But he forgot one thing. Money is not wealth, it's a claim on goods. As these reddish coins flooded the market, merchants noticed the change. They weren't looking at the emperor's face on the coin, they were weighing the silver inside. If a coin has only half the silver it used to have, a baker needs twice as many coins to buy the same amount of flour. To protect his own family, the baker doubled the price of bread overnight. This is how the coin printing solution instantly triggered inflation. As prices soared, the government did something even worse. They banned inflation. They set maximum prices for bread and milk. But here's the problem. If it costs you $5 worth of silver to produce a single egg, but the law dictates you must sell it for $3, you are forced to take a loss on every single sale. Since selling more only means losing more money and heading faster toward bankruptcy, you simply stop selling altogether. You hide the goods. This turned a price problem into a shortage crisis. The more money the state printed, the faster the goods disappeared from the shelves. Rome also tried this. To keep the masses happy, they provided free grain, the annona. Over time, farmers in Italy realized they couldn't compete with free. They stopped farming and moved to join the welfare line. Rome became dependent on imported grain from Egypt. When the trade routes failed, the city starved. Welfare didn't save Rome, it made Rome fragile. When you subsidize non-production, you get less production. Welfare without work creates a fragile society. If a government redistributes a shrinking pie, eventually even the richest nation runs out of other people's money. This coin-printing solution eventually bankrupted the legions. Soldiers couldn't buy food with their worthless salaries, so they abandoned their posts. The middle class fled the cities to escape crushing taxes, moving to self-sufficient estates. The administration paralyzed. When the barbarians arrived, they only kicked in a door that was already rotting. Rome didn't die from an attack, it died from a monetary suicide caused by the printing illusion. The Venezuelan Tragedy, from debt to empty shelves. Venezuela was once a nation sitting on a gold mine, or rather an oil mine. With the world's largest oil reserves, the Chavez government relied on oil for over 95% of its total export revenue. During the years of high oil prices, they borrowed staggering amounts of money from abroad to fund massive welfare programs and national projects. But the trap was set. They spent as if oil prices would stay high forever. In 2014, when global oil prices plummeted, the country's primary source of dollars vanished overnight. The government was left with a mountain of foreign debt and no way to pay it back. Unable to repay its debts or even pay the salaries of public employees, the successor government, led by Nicolás Maduro, made a fatal choice. They decided to bridge the massive budget gap by running the money printing presses 24/7. But as the supply of bolivars exploded while the production of goods remained stagnant, the value of the currency simply evaporated. This was the birth of hyperinflation, a reality so absurd that people literally began using paper money as wallpaper because it was cheaper than actual rolls of paper. To deflect blame for this catastrophe, the government claimed that the skyrocketing prices weren't a result of their failed policies, but rather an economic war waged by greedy business owners. In the name of winning this war, the Maduro government enforced strict price controls, freezing the legal prices of essentials like bread and milk. They believed they could stop inflation by decree. This is where the economic disaster truly began. Imagine you are a merchant. Because of hyperinflation, the cost of labor and transport to produce or import a single item has risen to $5, but the law dictates you must sell it for exactly $3, and if you charge more, you are branded a criminal. At this point, you are forced to take a loss on every single sale. Since selling more only means losing more money and heading faster toward bankruptcy, you simply stop selling altogether. When shopkeepers tried to raise prices just to survive, the government sent in soldiers to raid the shops and arrest the owners. In a world where selling at a fair market price was a crime, merchants faced an impossible choice: go to prison, go broke, or hide their goods. They chose to survive by locking their doors. This is the real reason the shelves went empty. It wasn't just that goods were expensive, it was because the government made it illegal to trade at a price that covered the cost of production. Venezuela proved that when you sever the link between cost and price, the economy simply stops breathing. The German miracle, restoring the pulse of the market. In 1948, post-war Germany was a graveyard of commerce. Residual price controls and rationing from the Nazi era had made the official currency, the Reichsmark, practically worthless. Farmers refused to sell their crops for paper money, and merchants hid their inventories, trading only in the black market for cigarettes or chocolate. For years, shop windows remained empty and covered in dust, while the people starved in the ruins. Then came Ludwig Erhard, the director of economics. On a Sunday in June 1948, he made a move that stunned the world, including the Allied occupation forces. He introduced a new currency, the Deutsche Mark, and in a single courageous night, he abolished nearly all price controls and rationing. Even General Lucius Clay of the U.S. Army was skeptical, noting that his advisors warned the plan would ruin Germany. Erhard famously replied, "My advisors tell me the same thing, but I have simply corrected it." Erhard understood a fundamental truth that his critics missed. High prices are not the enemy. Instead, they are a vital signal, telling producers that certain goods are desperately needed in the market. By removing the artificial price caps, he allowed this signal to function again. For the first time in a decade, merchants knew they could receive a fair value for their goods, giving them a reason to sell once more. The result was nothing short of a miracle. On Monday morning, just hours after the decree, shop shelves that had been empty for years were suddenly overflowing with fresh vegetables, meat, furniture, and tools. These goods didn't fall from the sky. They had been hidden in barns and warehouses because merchants were unwilling to take a loss under price controls. Once the fair reward was restored for their labor, the supply exploded back into the light. As the currency regained its value and the market began to breathe, the German people returned to work with renewed vigor. They knew that the money they earned through hard labor could finally buy the things they needed. Productivity didn't just return, it skyrocketed, leading to what we now call the miracle on the Rhine. Germany proved that an economy can rise from the ashes of war, not through government force, but by restoring the freedom to trade at a fair price. The final lesson: true wealth in a world of digital pixels. Welfare is meant to be a safety net, but when overused, it becomes a hammock. If the government provides free money that rivals a working wage, why would a baker wake up at 4 a.m. to bake bread? When you subsidize non-production, you get less production. This is the first step toward a national shortage. To pay for massive welfare, the government must either tax heavily or borrow. High taxes crush small businesses, the very people who create stuff. Borrowing drives up interest rates. When the state takes too much space in the economy, private innovation is crowded out. The result? A society with lots of spending power but fewer goods to buy. True compassion isn't just handing out cash, it's empowering people to produce. Welfare should focus on education and infrastructure, things that make a worker more valuable. If a government focuses on redistribution before production, it is simply dividing a shrinking pie. Eventually, even the richest nation runs out of other people's money. In the past, you could hear the printing press. Today, the creation of money is silent. It happens with a few keystrokes at a central bank. When billions are created digitally to fund stimulus checks or welfare, it's the modern version of Nero mixing copper into silver. The copper today is the dilution of your purchasing power through a screen. We are heading towards central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. While convenient, they give governments an unprecedented central control over the economy. They can program your money, making it expire if you don't spend it, or blocking it if you don't follow certain rules. It is the ultimate tool for welfare through inflation, where the government controls both the supply and the speed of money. Why are people obsessed with Bitcoin or gold? Because they are looking for an unprintable asset. Just as the Romans hoarded pure silver coins when the copper ones appeared, modern investors are hoarding assets that governments cannot dilute. This is a global vote of no confidence in the era of endless money printing. Even in a digital world, the golden rule holds. If a country produces advanced chips, clean energy, and abundant food, its digital currency will be strong. If it only produces digital numbers to pay for welfare without a backing of real productivity, its currency will eventually collapse, just like the Roman denarius or the Venezuelan bolivar. History is a circle. From copper-mixed silver to paper marks and now to digital pixels, the tools change, but human greed stays the same. True wealth is not found in a central bank's database. It is found in the ingenuity of the people and the productivity of the nation. True welfare and prosperity only come from what we create. Protect your future by understanding this one truth: value must be earned, not just added.